I want to spend some time today discussing the topic of desirability, specifically the dilemma of desirability. I remember reading about a researcher who created a project with the students at MIT. So they, came into a pub and they actually got free beer. There's a selection of 4 different items. And lo and behold, the waiter would come and take their orders and explain that, we're doing a sampling right now, so you get a free beer. And everybody gets the order. He'll take turns going clockwise, counterclockwise, just in order. And it happens more often than not that everybody chooses a different beer, even though some of them are obviously less desirable. Just by their very name, you could tell they're less desirable. Even though the waiter says, "What would you like?" Not asking you, "What would you like out of the remaining choices?" So you see, they actually don't like it. They actually didn't want it. They report afterwards they didn't like the beer. It's not like they tried a new flavor and loved it. But they feel weird ordering something other people have already ordered. And we see this commonly in restaurants. So if you're eating with your partner and they say, "Oh, I think I'll get the cast iron steak," and you're like, "Oh, well, I was gonna get that." Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, that's okay, you could get that," as in you can't get the same thing. So the researcher had a solution to this. He says, "Well, you should have everybody write down what they want on a piece of paper first," and they just hand their piece of paper as like blind vote. Then you could choose what you want, unhindered by others' choices. But the thing is, this really isn't that big of an issue. When I'm eating out, sometimes we do get the exact same thing. Not everybody cares what other people order anyway. Maybe a large part of the population, but not the vast majority. I think the real issue behind this is choosing what you like, what you want, in spite of others, without any constraints. Like, what would you do if you were a billionaire? Like Bill Gates. He lives it up. He rented a luxury yacht. I think it was one of those $500,000 a week ones, owned by MBS of Saudi Arabia. It has its own submarine port. Because a helicopter pad, that's just passe, right? But Bill Gates also loves going to McDonald's. Hmm? Isn't that junky food? The problem is we care too much about what other people think. In fact, often what other people think determines whether or not we want something. It determines desirability. Does it feel good when somebody says, "Good choice," after you choose an item on a menu? What if you actually got the hamburger at the seafood restaurant? Would anybody say "good choice"? Does it matter whether people approve? What does being rich actually mean? What benefits does it give you? Well, I think the main one I could see now is you actually get to do what you like. Have you ever met rich people? Probably, but you probably just didn't know it. Because they don't care if you know that they're rich or not. There's this one guy who is talking on his path to becoming rich about the difference between wannabe wealthy and actually wealthy, because at the time he didn't know. He says if they're actually wealthy, they don't care if you know who they are. For example, he was in an elevator and saw a guy with a big dollar sign hanging around, and he said, "What is that?" He's like, "It's The Weeknd." And the guy had no idea, and the other guy just gave up. And he looked it up later, and apparently he's a pretty big name in the music business. He's rich. Whereas in the bathroom, there's another guy trying to get his attention, talking about proposals. He knows this, he knows that, has lots of bling jewelry on his hands. And he said, that guy's not actually rich. He's just a wannabe. See, if you're actually wealthy, you don't care if other people know who you are, because you don't need their approval. Why would you care? You know who you are. You're rich. And like Bill Gates, You could order whatever you like. Who cares about what other people think? I know people who have money. They love it when they get this old, rundown, ratty-tatty car for a good deal, like a 1980s Corolla. Why are they so happy? Because they got a good deal. Do they care if other people look down on them on the car? No, they know. What a good deal my car is. One caveat, though, I have to say is when you're actually rich, people will think that whatever you're doing is cool if they know you're rich by default. As in, somebody is telling me a story of his neighbor who is pretty wealthy. I mean, he already has a pretty big house, single-story house on an acre of land in the Bay Area. That's pretty good, right? His neighbor's even wealthier. But he's saying that his neighbor showed him this watch. He's like, how do you like my new watch? He's like, oh, nice. And the neighbor laughed. He's like, it's fake Rolex, right? But of course, because the guy is rich, nobody thinks it's a fake Rolex. But it's this idea of proving yourself, right? They don't have to prove themselves. Whereas if you or me went around with a $100,000 watch, it was like, hey, nice imitation. Where'd you get it from? China? There's a forum called Chowhound where people talk about food. Chow, right? And I remember reading a guy get berated about eating McDonald's. Because this is foodies, right? People who actually like food. So the person said they were really hungry and just had to get some food. But that was still unacceptable. I mean, just bear your hunger. Wait till you could get real food, right? When you're talking to other people, sometimes you don't like to admit that you do, quote, low-end stuff. My friends and I, when we hang out, one person suggested we go eat at El Pollo Loco. It's fast food. I think it's delicious. Grilled chicken. But we're middle class. We don't eat at such places when we hang out, right? Sometimes people make comments. You have money, you're a doctor. When I was telling my friend about going to Lofoten and staying at a hostel and eating pasta for 2 days straight because food was so expensive there. So pasta is still pretty cheap. I bought 2 kilos, some sauce. I ate it every single meal. We had a Thai restaurant one time. It's $25 for a bowl of tom yum and some rice. Way too expensive, I feel. I know someone who's an oncologist. She drives a old Honda Civic. It runs fine. It's almost 20 years old though. People at work tell her, hey, you need a new car when they see her pull up. Why does she need a new car? Obviously to keep up appearances. But why does she care? Her car works. The big problem with the idea of caring what other people think is you actually don't get to do what you like. You get to do what other people like. Actually, other people don't even know if they like fancy restaurants. I'm guessing many people who talk highly of Michelin-starred restaurants would actually be appalled if they went to a Michelin restaurant. I mean, if they had a presence to actually say they don't like the food. I've gone to one. It was nothing special. Service wasn't that great either. And it was 2 Michelin star. When we were poor, when I was growing up, it might have been about the value. Like my dad always telling me at the buffet to skip the carbs. Don't waste your stomach on that stuff. Get the good stuff. I mean, steak is good. Seafood is even better. The high value things. But what if I like fried noodles? Chow mein. I realized I do like those. You can't actually find them in a real Chinese restaurant, but at Chinese buffets, they have them plentifully. The big, thick, greasy noodles. Delicious. They make you full though. Grease, carbs. You don't have much room for the real valuable stuff like the mussels and the crab, right? But I've learned a little since. In Singapore, I got some Pizza Hut. What? With all those nice food options, you got Pizza Hut? I mean, don't they have laksa, chili crab, all these things? Yeah. but I miss the pizza. I used to think about what should I get when I'm in a foreign place? Because you can't get something you could get at home, right? You got to do something you can't do at home. You can't do once you leave. And you just limit yourself. Rather, I limit myself by thinking, what would other people say? What's the real answer? Sure, why not? I'm sure Bill Gates doesn't mind eating McDonald's when he's traveling abroad.